Hello and welcome. Hope you're all doing alright. I'm doing a lot better. I did have, like I said, tonsillitis from about last Wednesday or Thursday, and when I rewatched the last video I was a little bit groggy, I think. So I thought I'd just, because I've just managed to finish a couple of hours early, so rather than do a bit of paperwork, I've just been having a mull in the garden, so I thought I'd just do a quick video, just sort of going where we're going forward for the next plan of attack. So it'd be short and medium term stuff, I guess you would call this. The long term thing is to get the waterfall down at the back behind my dust sheet that's drying off, which is what all these stones are for. But what it is it's going to be a chunk of cash needed all up front to get it all here first before I start. And like I said, I've been doing my little office up, so now I've got to pay the plasterer next week and then get the floor done to get it up to the stage I wanted to get it up to. So that's another 400 quid gone out of the budget. So yeah, it's probably going to be squeaky bum time, but I think somewhere in and around the 1st of June is when I'm going to start all that. But I'll get all the stuff here before, like the pump and all that, and have a little play with it, see how it's all going to go, and obviously fill you in as we go. So anyway, got me to thinking what I can do for now that's relatively inexpensive. You can see I've mocked up two sort of fence posts to get a gist of it. I pulled the little kids table over here, and I did have some seats sat around it just to get the gist of it. Now what it is that where should we start from? Okay, right. So what we'll start with is I got a bit carried away with myself last time, because I'd got my new Sciathia, I'd done this, got the edging looking right, and the weather was good, so I was starting to actually look around for some pots, 2 matching pots, so that I could dig up the crested fern behind the rocking chair there at the back, and this one here, put them into the pots, chuck them out the front, and then, you know, kind of have that space and then start moving stuff around, possibly plant the other polystitch and Sativarium where the dead Dixonia is, the little plant one over there. But yeah, obviously it got cold, so yeah, that put palm to that and kept me in check a little bit, because I was getting a bit excited. I was having visions of me putting the Sciathia out next weekend, so it's probably good if I don't. So anyway, it just got me to thinking, having a little sit back and thinking, what do I need to do? So I think the best way I look at this sort of thing is I'm going from the ground up, if that makes sense. So basically anything below ground needs doing first, and then anything that's sat on the ground needs doing second. You sort of work your way up from there, and then I need to just prioritise it, as in, is stuff holding the stuff up. So if we consider, for example, like that seating area, the footprint of that is all done, the seats are in, it's sat on a concrete base, the concrete base for the waterfall is done. Let's get out there actually, just so you can see it. So these seats are all in there, they're sat on stones like this sort of wall here. That plant has obviously got some plants in. If we come around here, this is where the waterfall is going to go. This big concrete base you can see that everything's sat on wasn't there before I put that in right at the beginning of the year. All this is sat on it. It's just because it's going to be a lot of blocks and a lot of stones, so I need to make sure it doesn't collapse. So that base is down anyway. Here we've got this little transition where I'm going to tie it into the waterfall, so I can't do anything with that yet. But with regard to that, the fence post's done there, and I've got the bottom bit of wood in along the bottom so I can butt the flower beds up against it, so that's all done. Footprint wise, this is all done around here. Again, footprint wise, this is all done around here. And then we get to here, obviously again just this little transition bit, which when I'll do all this and turf it out or do whatever I'm going to do with it, I'll do all the like little nickety pickety bits like that when I do that, if you see what I mean. But when we get over to here, this bit's kind of half done, because you can see I've built my little wall at the back there that these coping stones are on, so the actual footprint of this is done. And yeah, the only bits that need doing is this cutting in of the patio. So i.e. this coping stone that's going to be in front of this ticky head that's missing, this little gap here between the fence post and this paver here, need to cut a stone for that. And then you can see the patio ends there, so funny enough, convenient enough, the distance of the width of that coping stone there all the way down to the fence is just a little gap running down there, so that needs sorting out. And then the patio here, obviously, which I need to do a few more cuts for, but more importantly the fence posts need to go in. So I've got three fence posts I'm going to put in, actually four, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. We'll head over here, because if we're stood in the middle like we are now, can you see I've got that fence post there and that one there, and then I'm going to have one there. If we come back this way, I've got the one there, I've got the one there, but I haven't got anything there, and I think it would be quite nice and give me a bit of flexibility going forward. Not necessarily if I want to put a bit of roof on that, but if I wanted to, because I'm going to have a pergola across from the house to these, that's the point of them being there, I could, you know, have the pergola running up the fence across to it, or you know, something like that. But it gives me a bit of options, and it will tie it up symmetrically with that fence post over there. Now what I've done for that fence post over there is, you can see the little bit of black edging that I've just lent up against it, that actually goes straight through the centre of that from the 45, from the play area sort of thing. So what I did, where this one ended up, I then went straight down the line at it, and where the sort of straightness intersected with that 45 coming off from the play area, that's where I put that post. That seemed the place to do it, so that would make sense to do the same over here. Now when we're talking about this one, you can see all the rest of it is, you know, all rubber edging, and then this goes into a wall. If that rubber edging was there, how it would actually work out, as in the true octagon as I call it, is that black bit would be going straight across, it would go through the wall, and then if you imagine the sort of, you know, the triangle bit, so the bit of rubber coming this way and the bit of rubber coming that way, they would actually be touching, sat down at the bottom touching that wall, as in the stones are just outside of it. So that's the actual true octagon. So for me that means if I was to come out as far as this post and then come straight down, I make it that fence post that I'm going to put in is going to be in and around here somewhere, just to the left of the crown of the blechnum, basically somewhere in and around there, just off the back of the wall. That works out quite well. One thing I'll have to do, as you're probably saying, is I'll have to take apart this flower bed. I was thinking about this, because it could work out quite well, because I need to dig up that eucomis anyway. The blechnum I was going to move just to the other side of the banana, behind that bench effectively, and then I was going to put the big giant honeysuckle in here. Now that's going to be a big climber, so it's going to have to be off the wall a fair bit, and I would imagine that it would need to be somewhere in and around where that little bit of insulation's coming up, condense pipe, overflow pipe, the bit sticking out the ground that's sort of half tucked under the coil there. I reckon it needs to go there. However, I also want to get a couple of ferns in and around it, so what I might do is just take this centre wall off, leave this outer rim on here, level up the flower bed, keep that saxifraga there. I might even move that thing over into this bit over there, and then that gives me a nice, if you imagine that bit's not there and this whole bit's flower bed, then that gives me a nice bit of room. I could probably get the actual giant honeysuckle more in where the valve is than that little pipe, you know, sort of a bit more towards us. That's got plenty of space all the way around it then, and then I can sort of maybe put in something down in this corner or something up there. But I think that sounds like a plan. So that one's fairly easy. Take out that wall, dig up the blechnum, dig up the eucomis, and then just get it so it marries up wherever the intersecting line is. So that one's alright. When it comes to this one over here, there's two trails of thought with this. If we're on this side of it, the trail of thought is you don't want it impending like your view, if you know what I mean, like sort of making this bit seem a bit because if you have a look, that fence post there is touching the 45, yeah, where it comes back down from the little jut out, whereas that sort of post there is quite far away, even the wall is quite far away, so I might want it just to go back a touch if I could. But then the trouble with that, as you can see, I've mocked up a little table and chairs for now just to get a gist of how wide it is. You're then not going to be able to walk around the sort of back, if you see what I mean, the back of people, which is the whole point of having that jut out. So I've got a couple of options here, as I see it. Do I move this thing maybe a bit more into the left? And what that'll do is I'll sacrifice being able to walk around people, because even if they tuck in, they're not going to be able to walk around, but I can walk around the back of this quite easily, if that makes sense. And then what that would do is obviously move this one in over here a touch, probably to around there. That's not too bad. Is it encroaching a little bit onto the table and chairs? Probably, especially if I get like an octagon table. So the other trail of thought is to put them back a bit more toward the 45, so this area seems bigger, and then maybe have like a long rectangle table here, if that makes sense. And then going on from that, I can actually build up a little bench against this wall under the kitchen sink to hide. I'm going to take that outside tap out anyway, but to hide that and to hide other things that we'll get into, and then have like a permanent bench across there, nice long rectangle table. And then I can do it so that any chairs I get that come around the outside, I'll get folding ones, and when they fold up they can be stored in this big bench. So yeah, or do I do both, have the best of both worlds, so that it can be walked around the outside regardless, and it's a rectangle table, so you should be able to get around the back of people anyway. Yeah, so I probably just made my mind up with that, but that's that. So that one's nice and easy, and now this one should be nice and easy, because as soon as I work out where that's going, that one just needs to be symmetrical off of the centre line of the jut out. However, where it starts to get a bit tricky is that these fence posts are going in there because I want to have a pergola coming off of the house. So if you imagine there's a big batten running across the top of those two windows, and then the sort of struts, if you want to call it, will come down and sit on, there'll be another bit of wood sat on top of these fence posts, and then the struts will come down. You know what I'm on about, they see it. And then what that means is I can keep it as a pergola and open straight away, but if I did want to put some plastic roofing on it or something, I could do, and have it run across this way. If I do that, then it's going to need to have a gutter in on the left hand side of these fence posts, yeah, because it's going to be high at the house and come down low over to here. So if we carry on across over here, what happens is that batten is going to run out because there's a garage there and there's nothing to attach it to. Now this area I do actually want to cover up straight away, which means that I'm going to have to effectively run a gutter underneath that gutter on the white board, and then have it so that this area, the roof is high at the front, high in the garden, and comes low to the house, if that makes sense. So there's a complete switch up of the way they run there. And then just to throw in another thing to the mix, we've got this seating area here, which I'm going to do with a bit of tinned roofing, because I like the sound of it in the rain, but I don't want to do too much. And does that one want to go high at the front, down low at the back, and maybe run gutter in across the top of that fence and into the gutter that way, or do I have it high at the back, low to the front, and then have a gutter in coming across and meeting up with this one here? Now obviously what makes it difficult is that this needs to marry up with the height of that, yeah, because to have the straight bit across for whatever height it's at. But then this bit needs to have a post in the same height as those fence posts, so that it can take the lower part of the roof, and then it also needs to have a high part to it, which is going to be the start of the higher bit. So I effectively only need to strap two fence posts together at different heights, dig them down, and then somehow work out how the guttering is going to go and that. So you know, this bit's going to need to be high as well over here. So as you can see, do I strap a bit of wood to where those bits of wood are and just let it run up higher, probably as high as the top of that trellis, or do I have it this side of it, the side that's facing us, and go up there? Do I have it on this outside one where the ticky head is and go up there, or do I have it on this side of it and have it go up there? And then whatever I do there, I'll have to mirror there, I guess, or something. But I just need to see how all the guttering's going to run in to itself, if that makes sense, or do I just chuck it out into the garden somewhere and forget about it? So yeah, plenty of food for thought on that one. So that should mean if I get those 3 fence posts in, or 4 if we count this one as a 2, that should mean then that I can do the cuts for these patio stones here, because they'll be around the fence posts, do the rest of the cuts, get the patio in, and then that by me means that the whole footprint of the garden's done. As in, I don't need to dig down apart from to get some dirt. If you catch my drift, I don't need to put anything solid in there. And then going on from that, the medium term stuff is that if that bit's going to be finished and all the patio is going to be in there, I may as well finish this corner, which means getting that wood in behind. Now, I'm not going to want to be putting fence posts screwed up against that wall if there's a big cyathea in there and I've put all the plants in, so I need to do it before that. The plants are actually going to hold up me cutting in all the edging, and well, not necessarily cutting it up, but you know, putting it in there, because I don't want to be digging around in it once they're on there, because they won't be on there that well. Which means that I probably need to chop this bamboo down pretty sharpish, get that fence post against the wall there, run the fence to marry up with this one, bearing in mind that I can't get down behind this, and from that bottom board you can see there, it's 3 down, as you can see by the big gap at the back there, because I need it to obviously look good when people come out and look down here where that leg is for that blackboard. So I can't get to that side over there, so I'm going to have to sort of maybe build up a frame of like 4 or 5 of them, and then screw in the top 2 or 3 into this, and then hopefully that'll hold it all in, and do the same at the bottom. I mean, I can get to the bottom here probably, so that should be alright. But yeah, so, but before I put the fence on there, I need to sort out the utilities, and when I say utilities, I mean my 2 radiator pipes for the coils, which I've got a Mark II version of, which I will get into next time, and then I've got the 2 sets of irrigation that need to go out, which is the high pressure one for the cyathias and Dixonias and the mist sprayers, and then the low gravity fed one, which is just going to do all of that, and then possibly an electric cable, which is something else I do need to get into actually, because there's a mains and a light cable buried at the back there underneath, right in, well, they're over actually on the waterfall, but they sort of stick their head up there. I need to work out where I'm going to have a socket out the back there and a light switch, or whether I have the light switch maybe over here or something like that. But I need to start getting the gist of this done, because before I put that fence in, I need to run the pipes in behind that, because I won't be able to get to it after. So I was figuring if I just move this bench out of the way, what I'll do, because there's quite a nice gap, you probably can't see it between the fence, there's probably a good, I don't know, 10-12 centimetres between sort of my fence and the other fence, if that makes sense, all those concrete shutters at the bottom. That seems to be quite a good area to bring out the ends and have the first joins on the pipe, and then what I can do, this bottom fence panel, I'll put it on like 2 hinges, so that if I ever need to get to anything, I can just lift it up like a trapdoor and it'll expose it all in there. But essentially, yeah, there'll be 2 radiator pipes in there, and then 2 irrigation circuits with a couple of cut-ins to come up and put a heat in this section in the irrigation as well. But we'll get into that more next time. But yeah, I need to start pondering those routes and getting at least some of it in there. And also, if it's running along the bottom here of the house all the way over to that corner, I don't want to run it like that where it's all loose. I'll probably have to buy some like drain pipe or something like that and just run that along. Now, me going on about building the bench here, that actually works quite well, because that'll hide the most of it. So yeah, I just need to get a drain pipe, put it in there, feed it all in one end, and it come out at the other end. And then I can get on with the wood for that bit, which then means that I can then get on with the plant in a couple of weeks' time when it needs it. So yeah, anyway, you can see the stuff I'm having to think of, and that's just the 2 easy things that need doing next in inverted commas. So yeah, anyway, yeah, my voice is still a bit croaky, but it's getting there, so hopefully that was a bit better and you're having a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.